But before we get Wendy back on, and hopefully that will happen in just a second, I'll explain a little bit about the show. Fit for Purpose, leadership that moves people, is about looking at leaders who are in charge of technology companies that are responding in the best way that they can to the current health crisis. So 2 weeks ago, my first guest was Jerome Turnink from Smart Recruiters. Jerome was a spectacular guest to have on. Jerome, if I'm honest, is a little bit intimidating because he has such a spectacular CV of achievement and success business-wise. Not only has he jumped out of aeroplanes, but he started multiple companies in the internet space and recruiting space, Mr. Ted being one of them, and recruitment companies in Europe as well. So I think, let me just check if we've got Wendy. Can we hear you, Wendy? I can't hear a word you're saying. I cannot hear a single word. If you're going to have to mime through the whole show, then that might be a little bit tricky. Wendy, are you back on the microphone that you were using before? Can't hear you. I cannot hear a word. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blather a little bit while Wendy fixes her microphone. Wendy, just to give you a bit of background, Wendy is Chief Exec and founder of Firefish Software. Firefish Software have been going for about 10 years now. And Wendy started Firefish while she was running her own recruitment agency, 920 Recruitment in Glasgow. 920 Recruitment was specializing in IT recruitment, as Wendy has always done. And throughout the time of her being a frontline recruiter, she worked with Melville Craig and then set up her own agency. Within Melville Craig, Wendy was the top biller, and within Melville Craig, that's really quite going some for anyone to be top biller. Such was the success she had there. She then set up her own agency, and within that agency, I know this because I know Wendy pretty well. Wendy decided that the ATS solutions out there just weren't matching what she was after, so set up Firefish Software 10 years ago now. How are we doing on the microphone front, Wendy?
Hello.
We have you. Thank goodness for that.
A little bit of stress to get you started.
A little bit of stress. I'm having a pad here. So I've just been telling the audience a little bit about your background.
I heard that. Thank you so much. Yes.
With Mel Craig and 920, and of course starting Firefish Software. But again, just to backtrack a little, the purpose of the show is to look at people who are leaders in business, people who are leading from the front, running the companies, and of course right now trying to lead their companies through the unpleasantness, as I like to call it. Things are not easy for many companies right across the board. Some companies are having it really hard. Other companies are just finding that the norm has totally changed and they have to pivot on what they're doing and how they're doing it. And of course, that applies from top to toe, from the chief exec at the top right down to whoever is parking the cars or working in admin. So right across companies are having those kind of difficulties. So the purpose of this show is to speak with people who are leading their organizations in this time and working out the ways in which they can not just come out of the other end of it, but come out of the other end better for it, maybe a little poorer, but better for it in terms of having sharpened their skills, having learned something about themselves, their organization, their team, and taking it from there. So, Wendy, for anyone who doesn't know you, I know I've given a quick summary. Can you give us a quick précis of your background, please?
Yeah, I think you summed it up quite well. Essentially, I've got 20 years, as most people probably know me, that also has in recruitment. Recruitment's in my blood. And for the last 10 years, I've really been passionate about providing the tools to recruiters in Firefish from a recruitment marketing and CRM system. I don't I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I suppose, I've now sort of run 3 businesses. Yes, we've been through some tough times, ups and downs, and I've learned a few tricks, and I've learned also what works and doesn't. And I suppose when this happened, I kicked into a sort of process that I've been there and done before. So, I was happy to share some experiences. Yeah.
So you mentioned there, recruitment's in your blood, and I sometimes joke to people, if you cut me, I would bleed CVs. But would you go along with, and I'm not personally recruiting anyone right now, and neither of you for a while, except for your own staff. But Would you go along with the line, once a recruiter, always a recruiter?
Yeah, definitely, because I think if you've been in the game for 20 years, there's been so many times to get out of the game, and you've decided to go back in some form or other. And where I still see myself very much as a recruiter is I'm still dealing with and helping so many recruiters with their running their business, trying to help them to recruit. So, I'm still working through, if I had a job, how would I want to work this through the system? And absolutely, I'm not sure if you cut me through and I would be bleeding CVs, but but it is weird, isn't it, that you can walk, if you meet somebody randomly, you know more about their past than maybe their name. Like, I am terrible with their names, but I will know exactly where they went to school, what they did at uni or they didn't, and where they worked and who they worked with.
Do you find yourself when you're introduced to someone new who's not in recruitment, that you drop into interview mode, you start asking?
Totally. Everybody hates it. That's when my husband sort of steers me away, because I'm actually interrogating them most of the time.
Yeah, when you get to the point where you're asking how much they're earning, and
you're always a bit wrong for social context. Yeah,
maybe not so good. So, given that, and again, we'll get up to the current goings on soon. But given that, would you say that you had a mission in life? Do you have a driving force that pushes you forward? And if so, when did that become clear to you?
Do you know, the only thing I really was very clear at was I was going to run my own business.
Yeah.
And anything that I did prior to that, I looked at experience that I was going to gain in order to run my own business. Yeah. So that was the driving force. But I think in terms of my motivation, I just like being successful. Yeah. And so I'm just going to go and be successful, and that's my driving force.
You're pretty competitive, whatever you're doing, whether you're playing Snap or running a business.
I think we've had some competitive games in the past, so yes, I think it's fair enough to say that. Yeah, no, I am. I've always have been, I love challenges and I love to win.
Yeah, so I hate to bring football into it, but Graham Souness years ago said, "You show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser." Are you a good loser if you don't win, or are you a bit huffy?
I think I've got more gracious, but it really annoys me. I've got a colleague that I work with that squash used to be my main sport. Yeah. And right now I should be beating him, and I'm not very happy with the fact that last 2 times we've played I've lost. So I'm comfortable with it, but it's not going to happen again. I've been training since. Yeah. As
a recruiter, I always and I was never always the best in the office, but. Actually, I usually was, but I always took it personally when someone was beating me. And even now, when I'm playing Scrabble with someone online on my phone, if it's someone I know and they beat me, I really don't like it one bit. I'll go out of my way to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, it's not the same in all aspects, but some people just don't have that competitive edge. And you'll have people in your team who they do a very good job. They're very conscientious. They do it for other reasons, but they don't have mental targets that they're aiming to hit. Their target would be to enjoy what they're doing and get a kick out of being good at it.
Yeah, everybody's different. Yeah. And that's what you need in a team. But I love people that can beat me. Those are the ones I respect, because those are the ones that they'll set my goals.
Yeah. So Firefish Software is now 10 years old. You started it when you already had your other agency, so at one point you'll have been riding the proverbial 2 horses with 1 arse.
And I was terrible at it.
I know the feeling, and I know the feeling of being terrible at it. But with 10 years of Firefish now, how has the company matured, and how have you matured as a boss, as a business owner?
Do you know, mentally, I think I had a challenge of taking a business. I believed almost I couldn't grow a business beyond 25 employees. Mm-hmm. So that was a big thing I had to get over. I think it's a lot of people share that same sort of scenario when they're trying to grow a business, that they tend to sort of push it out there and then sort of back off, push it out there and back off. And that was something mentally I really had to change in my head. And, fortunately I've, worked with a great coach and, Kai Murray that works with me. She really helped me break through that ceiling, and help me with this business. So that took a lot of change with how I viewed things, and what we could achieve in this business, which, in the current circumstance, obviously is getting challenged just now. But yeah, I think that's definitely one. And the other thing is, you just have to be so self-aware, and it's a battle every day for me, because some of your strengths that drive you to drive your business will drive others nuts. And, half the time you can be a nightmare. And you just need to respect that and understand it, and try and understand the triggers so you can go back to it.
Yeah. For people who don't know the reference, Kai Murray was the chief executive of Search Consultancy, and involved in their management buyout, management buy-in, and then exiting that business. And Kai has refined the science of getting over humps. So she'll talk about businesses getting to a certain level of turnover, and that's the hard part, where you need to either step on your turnover, your number of staff, maybe having more than one offices and so on, and has strategies to get over that. My problem in business was always I was great as a business partner. I was fantastic working alongside someone, but if I was the only person responsible for the business, for everything in the business, then my personality just doesn't suit with that, because I need to switch off sometimes. But you're doing it on your own. I know
I'm definitely not doing this on my own now. I've done now 2 lots of share options as well, and I'm so glad that I'd done. And I actually just had signed another share option scheme for my new managers coming through just prior to COVID-19 hitting, and I'm so glad that I had done that before as well, because I think that's Melville Craig Patterson, also that ran Melville Craig, the other where I really learned my recruitment sort of trade. One of the things he said to me when he shook my hand and wished me all the best when I was then going out on my own. Yeah. And he sat me down and said, don't do this on your own. You need to involve others. Yeah. And I probably didn't do that as effectively in my first business, but in this business, I definitely have taken that on board. And I'm really glad. I really feel that this time around I have a team that is really involved and feel it's part of their business. I don't look at this business as mine. And that's been a big shift from my first business.
Yeah. Well, it can be a lonely place when you're the only person running it. But if you have a team, even if your name's there as CEO, but if you've got a team that have their own responsibilities and you can trust them to do what they have to do, then it's not all on your shoulders. So in that regard, Craig is absolutely right. You can't fault that there. So I've been watching your CEO diaries since the beginning of this whatever we're going to call it, shitstorm.
Shitstorm's good.
18th of March, I think, was the first one. And if I'm honest, so I've known you for a long time, but frankly, I've been bowled over by not just the quality of the presentation and the content, but the consistency and the diversity of the topics that you're going through. So there's been 19 2 to 3 minute videos. You've packed in acres of not only useful but vital guidance for business owners out there, especially companies the size of Firefish, and especially in recruitment, but I'd say applicable to all. It's kind of a masterclass in crisis management, and you'll know that your employees, your clients, prospective customers will be watching this too. So it's
whose bright idea was that when I started it?
Well, it's very brave. It's not the same as someone starting a blog, but you're making a road for your own back, and it's a very brave thing to do, because if you don't stick with it, then it fades away, and you might look a bit daft, or you might say something that you'll later regret. So it's a really brave thing to do. But so far, you've not just not dropped the ball. You've built up a real package of ways in which anyone running a business can get themselves through this, and the chronology of how you've done it. You've built layer upon layer, obvious things at the start, or actually maybe setting aside some of the obvious things at the start, because people in crisis management often tackle the wrong things first. But you've put the groundwork in there. And I think that these videos have become part of your personal brand and the Firefish brand. What was your thought process about doing it at the start?
Do you know, I remember sitting in the office the day that I told everybody that we were going to, that was that Monday before it was announced that we had to. I said, right, this is your last day in the office. And I remember sort of saying to Katie, our head of content and editor, I said, do you know what? I actually think I'm going to diary this. And they said, that's a great idea. And it then became, I hadn't fully thought about it, but actually it became a structure for me. It makes me accountable for achieving what I need to achieve in the business every single day. So that has actually been, which I didn't realize, really helpful for me. And if it helps anybody else, brilliant. And, you know, as a side, my husband's a video editor, videographer. It's not often that you can take your brand home, get it online, and look as though you're still in a studio. So I thought, let's use that. That's good.
Yeah, if you happen to have the skills and the equipment at home, then absolutely.
And it kept him busy because I needed to keep him busy too. so there was a side of it, but actually it's helped me formalize my thoughts every day. I do it during lunch, an hour, and it formalizes what I'm going to achieve this day. And you know, the weekend or the week before, I've got to think on a Thursday night because I can then put it into the Friday. What's the next week going to be about, and structure it through. So I find it quite therapeutic as well.
In the videos, you don't shy away from showing emotion, either frustration,
unusual,
or excitement, or pride, or you know, love for your team. And I think you're pretty much an open book at the best of times anyway. But you know, putting it on video, having it there for the world to see, because any business owner in the past few weeks is going to, frankly, their backside will be doing that. So how do you feel about exposing that side of yourself and being so out there?
Listen, the emotion is something I mean, I've been sort of modeled how high is your emotion is very low. But I think every business owner that is perhaps like tuned in and has had to go through the process, even if we've gone through it before, it's almost worse because we know what's in front of us. You know, that Friday, before I had to go and do the company communication on Monday, you know, I was writing that script in floods of tears, and I had to take two takes to try and get through it. That surprised me, but you know what? That's normal, and that is what we have all had to go through. So if somebody else, you know, that knows me and sees that I'm getting affected, it's all right for them to cry as well. Is the way I look at it. And
do you know, if you're running a business in this time, if you're not at some point choked up a bit about it, then are you even human? Because there's so much to have to tackle.
What business owners have had to do right now is, like, we were all flying. I was at the expo down in London, you know, in end of February, and I was doing a presentation about how we were just coming up to, you know, top end of the economic clock. It's boom time, and you know, this is the time you can try things, you can experiment. The market is forgiving, and then 5 weeks later, we're all sitting there going, "This is brilliant. We're going to have a top year." And then we're actually going, right, where's our cash stash? How healthy is it? You know, it has been sudden. God, I can look at a lot of things and know it's coming, but I didn't see that.
No.
No, it's just, though, it has just been, you know, I've had so many business owners on to me as well, and it's been horrible.
It's not like the problems that have come along have been as a result of a business bubble. You know, people talk about, you know, bubbles.
No, it's nothing they've done. It's nothing we've done.
Or you know, overconfidence or property values and so on. You can see those bubbles growing, and you know, you can point to them and say, well, this market's overvalued. It's going to pop at some point. But this is not to do with business, which is why so many people say, when it comes back, it'll come back big, because you know, we'll just pick up where we left off. But there's been a big hole in everyone's revenue, and a big hole in everyone's continuity of business. So you've taken us on a journey through these videos. We're up to 19 videos, is it now?
I'm just getting the 20. Today's one is empowering your manager, so that's just getting edited now.
Perfect. So you've taken us on a journey, as I was saying before, where each step has been a logical progression from the day before. You mentioned that you've been on that same journey. Did you have, and I know that well, you, through the likes of Kai and your own experience, you've studied a lot to do with business growth, business management, and you love that stuff. But did you have the content all written on day one or did you literally, right, next week's going to be this? Do you have a schedule in mind from the beginning, or has it evolved as you've evolved?
So it's now starting to evolve, but I knew for the first 5 weeks subconsciously every week, this is what I've got to do every week. So I had the headers there. Like I know next week what I'm going to be doing, but I write it literally what's happening that day and how I feel that day. So it looks really structured. And I probably hadn't written it all down. I'm not that sort of person with the detail, but in my head, I kind of knew, week 1, get them all used to working on. Week 2, spend the time with the Excel spreadsheets, work out your numbers, where you're going to burn, where you're not, etc. Boom. Next one, tell everyone. Okay, next one, boom. And then you break it down as to who, the audience, and that's how it's evolved. And I think it was really important as well, because what I wanted to do is I wanted the industry, I wanted my clients, if they hadn't been this before, wake up, this is reality, deal with it, rip the plaster off, get on with it, because it's going to be worse if you don't deal with it right now. Then, I might lose you later. So I'm going to have to deal with you losing licenses and employees. You deal with it now too. So I suppose there was that as well. As
I was mentioning before, in terms of your brand and what you're putting out, Firefish has always been known for your prodigious.
Have you been drinking?
Your non-stop marketing work that goes on. So you're continually putting out content to give value, to share your expertise, and to show that you know what you're talking about. So in doing this, obviously your clients would see this, and the hope, and I think absolutely it's worked, is that your existing clients would see what you're doing and have confidence in, right, well, we're with Firefish. Firefish is they know what they're doing. They're on top of it. We're not with a company that might flake out on us. Now, that's not to say that any other company in your sector are likely or going to do that, but whoever you're in partnership with, and when you have software with a company like yourselves, it's a partnership. You've not just bought a bit of kit. Then you need to know that the people and the organization you're working with are taking things seriously and going through all of the steps to make sure that they're for you. And that must be part of your thinking when you're putting the videos out, right? Your audience is not just to share with other businesses so they can do this for themselves, but to share with your customers so they can see the work that you're doing.
You're absolutely right. It was a way of me sitting here and getting my message out to all the different audiences. And the only time that I really stressed about that was that week of communication with my employees as well, because I suddenly realized that I'm going to have to talk on the same day that I'm telling them what's happening to them in the company. And they're hearing it in a video as well. That had to be managed very carefully with my employees as well. So, but with my customers too, actually it's been, listen, hey, we're in it. We are in it together. I'm here doing this. This is how we're supporting you, but this is what I'm also doing. And I think now what's happened is I'm seeing the payback. I have had so many customers come in and thank me for so many things, and they're comparing it. They've been on network groups and they're, my competitors are doing diddly squat. And we are doing stuff, and that makes me feel good, because yes, we've taken a hit like they've taken a hit, but I hope that our brand will be remembered for how we've supported them now, where I know that other companies are still fighting with their vendors.
So we don't know when this crisis, whatever it's called, will end. That's one of the difficult things. It's the not knowing. If someone said it's going to be 1st of May, 1st of June, 1st of September 2025, if we had a date, then people would somehow rationalize that in their mind and will work towards that date. But because it's indeterminate, then that's got to be a real business challenge as well.
Well, I'll give you a heads up there, and you can come back to this. I've got it right. But when I started my diaries, I said I'm probably going to be doing day 100.
Okay.
So we'll see.
So that could be 4 months from the beginning. Yeah. That's quite. So I not that my opinion counts for any more than anyone else's. I don't think it will come back fast. I think it'll be tentative. I think we'll be really lucky if we get to June, end of June, and we're back. Businesses generally are back to about 50% of where they were before. Then I think we'll be doing pretty well. So some companies might already be at that. Some companies might not be hit in that sense, and I'm sure you're not in that sense. But in terms of winning new business, in terms of all the things that you would say, well, these are the normal things that we do. Getting back to 50% by June, I think would be pretty good going for a lot of businesses, especially those that furloughed staff.
Oh yeah, totally. Our industry is bleeding. It really is, and it has been hit. The recruitment industry is one of the ones that will get hit first, but on the benefit, it will be one that comes back hard, which is great. But it's not going to be like 4 months and then that sort of 100-day mark is just for your short-term plan, is where we're dealing with it. It's then going to be a staggered increase from there. And it's not going to go back to normal either. Our whole industry, I think, will shrink by potentially a third, and then it will re-engineer. It will come back. There'll be people that are wanting to then set up their own businesses. Which is one of the campaigns that we've come out with for the redundant recruiters, is to get them back in the fight, and we've got an offering for them that's specific to help them set up again. And that's been really important as well.
That's a great thing. So the recruitment sector is I've always said it is very flexible and designed specifically to be so that it can expand and contract with markets. And whenever there's a shortage either of candidates or vacancies, then that imbalance is perfect for people in the recruitment business, because you've got one or other of the things that's not in supply, and you can identify them and make the match. So that's where recruitment comes from. But of course, that recruitment businesses can succeed by expanding and contracting. But of course, the people in those recruitment businesses, if they happen to be pushed out at this time, then typically the cycle of recessions or downtimes that we'll experience in the past 30 years that I've seen mean that people who are pushed out, or they're not pushed out, but they think now's the time to go and set up themselves, they go and do exactly that. And there's a new tranche of recruitment companies coming through that then challenge the companies they used to work for. So with Firefish, that kind of continual renewal, you've positioned yourself really well to be part of that continual renewal by being right in the center of the sector. You were telling me about the Firefish offer of the software, but how does that work in practice?
Yeah, so it's get back in the fight. So we're not wanting to target any of the furlonged staff or anything, because you've got business owners trying to work really hard to get you back. But this is if you've got proof you have been made redundant. You've got skill sets. We want to get you back in. So we've re-engineered our offering. And one of the sort of seat spots of Firefish is actually we have come from that's how we started. It was all the spin outs that we grew, and they're all fantastic businesses now. So we're great at that market. And one of the reasons for that is that, we have everything there for you to start your business. You have a recruitment website, you have your license, we're doing your marketing as well as your recruitment CRM. You can run your phones, you can run your text. It's all inclusive. You've got all your multi-posting. Everything is built in for that one license price. So we've taken any of the onboarding costs out of that. We've put it into a 12-month program, and we're also using our expertise to support them in a recruitment academy in terms of using the software and sort of stage 1, stage 2 to make a successful business out of it.
Yeah, fantastic. And whilst we're not here necessarily to push and sell Firefish, what we're talking about are ways in which any business can address what's in front of them and get through it and give value before getting revenue. So if you say it could be 100 days, could be 4 months, it might or might not be, might be shorter, might be longer than that. When we get to the end of that, if you've done videos each week, if we've gone through it all, do we get a certificate at the end of it? Do we get a Firefish MBA?
Oh, I'll give you a certificate.
If
I've done the way plan.
if there's a test, I'll set that test.
Oh, brilliant. I might have to do that to keep it mixed up. And
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Don't encourage me.
One other thing that occurred to me is that in putting together what you've done, and I don't want to overly or unduly flatter you, but would you say it was instinctive leadership, or was it a cunning plan? Or did you take time to absorb the sudden changes and come up with a plan, or was it right, I've got to do something and I'm going to do this? Did you decide to do it before working out how it's going to be done? No,
I just went into autopilot, unfortunately.
Yeah. I know that there's no right or wrong, but I think it's great that your automatic knee-jerk response is, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put myself out there. And lastly, I've just noticing the time here. Do you think that any business leader should always be ready for a crisis, because there's always one around the corner? Or if you're always ready for a crisis, does that mean that it could potentially lead to undue caution for people in business?
I think that's a really good question. And I think that listen, business is in a 7-year cycle. So business is a marathon. It's not like, get rich quick. If that's what you're into, then, go and get out of it. So at some point within your running your own business, you're going to have to experience a downturn, something, this is a health one, this is totally different. But you're going to have to experience something. So I think that if you can either start a business in this, or if you can go through this, you are learning huge amount. I think, people like myself, I could see Hillary on as well. We're probably going, didn't feel that we were going to be doing this again, but okay.
Do you know, that's like a really good impersonation of Hillary? It sounded just like...
Don't say that. But, I think, that's where we've kicked in, gone, all right, okay, let's get our head around this and go for it. So I've always run a business a bit more like a traditional business. I run a software, I think recruitment businesses do this anyway, but I run, a software business. A software business doesn't ever break even, or it's very unusual for it to actually make money. I couldn't do that. That's why I never took VC money, and VC would not be the right option for me, because they expect you just to take all their money and burn through it. I wouldn't be able to sleep. And if I'd done that, I would be in a huge problem. I would have a huge problem right now. So I think that you could say that in the last 10 years, I've been very cautious with my business, but hey, I am glad I have been, because I'm in a situation where I know I can make some cuts, do the right thing for the business, make sure I'm there, but I'm now fighting for my customers to come back and giving our motivation right now is to give them a brilliant product for what the future recruiter is going to need coming out of it. So I think that I think we've got a wee bit too flippant in certain sectors. They have been a wee bit too, too risky. And I think this will teach a lot of people in terms of how to get a balance again.
And I think what comes out of this is if people didn't know before, if they didn't know you before, then they would absolutely get the authenticity, the honesty in your video content. And one of my best memories of you is we were on the tube going to a recruiter event, and I think that was the first time that you were going to be up and speaking at that event anyway. And you were practicing on the rush hour tube on the way to the venue. You were practicing your talk in front of the entire tube of people going to the work. And I'm thinking, the brass neck in this woman. But if that's an indicator, then it's certainly been borne out now in what you're doing with your videos and with Firefish.
I nailed the pitch, didn't I?
Oh well, do you know, you changed the event? You literally changed the event because Matt Jelly was there, and Matt Jelly, I love Matt Jelly, but
he's okay.
Well, but his talk alongside yours was frankly dull by.
I raised his game.
Yeah, so the next event, Matt Jelly came out of the gates running. because he knew he had a fight on his hands. And
exactly. And now that's why I've hired him.
yeah, absolutely. So it's perfect. But Matt Jerry will not. He's not the sort of person to let someone get past him. He's competitive as well, and in that case, you literally change that event. So it's always a great thing to see. We know that we're still in the middle of this. We're not over the hump of it yet.
No, and there's more badness to come.
There's more badness to come. What's going to happen in the next? Well, just for individuals, businesses too. But in the next 4 weeks, there are people out there who are they're going to get to the end of their money supply. They're going to have no more actual cash. Whether the banks give through on loans, whether the money comes through for the furloughed staff from the government and HMRC, there's going to be companies and individuals out there who are just there's not when the debits come in, their mortgage, their electricity, their Virgin Media won't be getting paid, and it'll be the same for businesses. So there are really tough times in the next month where people are going to be hitting that wall, and they need to have a plan. So in terms of inspiration, I mentioned earlier on Facebook, I will not be motivated by someone else. My reason for that is that when people are deliberately trying to motivate me, I resist it. But I'm happy to be motivated when I see it, and I see people who are, they're not doing it to me, they're just showing what they do, and I take motivation from that. So in what you're doing, I absolutely take motivation from that. I think it's brilliant. So on that note, can I say thank you very much for being a great guest. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Stephen.
It feels like I'm relieved that I've got to the end of it, but no.
I know. I would be too. Most people are.
Well, no, when all of this is over, we can go down the pub and have a laugh about it.
I look forward to that.
But in the meantime, thank you very much for being a great guest, Wendy. We'll have another show next week, I hope at the same time, with another smashing guest. I'm not sure if we can top this one, but we'll try our very best. And in the meantime, everyone out there, thank you very much for watching. If you're watching us live, or if you're watching us in replay, if you've been commenting on the side, Hillary, please send me a message. Love you to bits. And thanks everyone for watching. Catch you soon. Thanks, and Wendy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.